Lagos is one of the places on earth with the most violated wetlands.
Somebody has money, he fills a whole river and builds an estate and then calls it Riverview Estate.
The space between your house and the next is so closed up.
Right.
It's a problem. You go to Lagos Island and people can actually literally shake hands from one window
to another.
And then we need to also do self-reflection as human beings. How can I make my environment better?
Meaning that the traditional us had more respect for nature and learned to live with it and by it. Then the new dominion spirit we have is to come and dominate nature.
Hello, welcome to Naija Eco Vibes Podcast. My name is Olamide Akinola, and I am one of your hosts. The Naija Eco Vibes Podcast is your go-to space for unfiltered, real and bold conversation on nature, biodiversity, sustainability, climate change, and more in Nigeria and beyond. And this podcast is powered by the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, NCF. You can find us on all social media platforms at NCF Nigeria. I repeat, at NCF Nigeria. For those people who are returning viewers and listeners, we want to say a big thank you for your support and love. Let's get into today's conversation. If you are living in a city or you are planning to move to one, this conversation is for you. To be very honest, city life is quite exhausting. There are a lot of things going on around the city, the noise, the weather, the heat, the traffic. We move from our cars to our houses, to our apartments, our offices. Every day feels heavier and we are trying to chase comfort, but a lot of time we don't get to experience quite a number of things. And even sometimes things like fresh air, quiet spaces, even good sleep, they feel like they are luxuries. And that brings us to a very important question. Are our cities built to sustain life, to sustain, nature and people to thrive together at the same time? Or we are just trying to adjust to lifestyle that is draining both, the nature, our environment, and even us, the human. I will not be doing this alone as always. I've got my co-host with me here. So, Shami.
Hi everyone, it's a beautiful day as always. Rain has showed us shige today, but of course, it's always a beautiful day to have wonderful conversation. And of course, like Olamide has given us the introduction, this topic has been one that has been burning at the back of my heart. Randomly, I was having one conversation with a friend of mine. I was talking about the fact that he just came back from the village. He traveled to the village and was saying, guy, the vegetable I had is feeling different from the one I used to have here. I'm like, I just smile like, what is going on? What could be the cause of this? And it just had me thinking, about it in general. Okay, come to think of it too. Does it mean that we in this city in town,
we are not enjoying
in the town, does it look like we are deprived of some things, And to even further drive home the essence of our point today, I was looking at some data up online, and statistics shows that from World Health Organization shows that life expectancy in Nigeria, this part of the world, is 55 years. So it got me bothered. It got me thinking as well, 55 years. So after 55 years, anything you see, Nigeria plus grace.
I'm telling you.
And also not just at that end, you also see that data also shows that over 114,000 deaths are related to pollution. And which are most times urban dwellers suffer these issues more often than not. And so you see that some of these things showing us that some way or the other, whether we like to admit it or not, seeing that there's a problem or a trend, especially with urban dwellers. And so this is part of the beauty of our conversation today. And today we'll be looking at the topic very interesting, the cause of urbanization. So we want to understand it. Are we just living in this concrete jungle, like we like to call it? Are there causes to this thing, causes so to speak, or are there perks or benefits to staying in the city? Of course, we are here to hustle, but are there detriments to other aspects of our lives? We want to explore this topic in details. We've got seasoned professionals in the house, and I'll be breaking down this topic. Of course, sitting right next to me, we've got Miss Folake Salawu. She's the Growing Recovery Nigeria coordinator for the Nigerian Conservation Foundation. You're most welcome.
You're welcome.
Shami. It's nice to be on the podcast.
Yes.
You're welcome.
And also, we've also got Mr. Sulaimon Arigbabu, Executive Secretary of HEDA Resource Center. You're most welcome. So I hope I did justice to the name.
That's why I was smiling. My lawyers will tell you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're welcome, sir.
We are happy to have you talk about this. But I have plenty of questions, and I'm glad you are here to take them off me. So, of course, let's delve in gradually. And, of course, before we get to that, Olamide mentioned rightfully, you can find us across all platforms at NCF Nigeria, across all platforms. And, of course, the podcast dedicated handles are at Naija Eco Vibes Podcast. You can find us everywhere. So, folks, I also want to, let's delve in. I think like they say ladies first. I'll come to you. Growing up, is there any stark difference you observed? Like maybe when you are growing up compared to life now? Is there any feeling, is there anything that seems different?
Yeah, definitely. Urbanization is a necessity. Right. We don't want to live like our forefathers live, mainly because we want improved life. Mm-hmm. We want more, like we want to reduce drudgery. In other words, we want to do the same activities our forefathers did, without going through the hassles of grinding pepper with the hand. Right. We don't want to trek from Ikorodu to Lekki. In as much as those were the good old days, we still want improved lifestyle. But the question is, at what cost? Right. So what's different from childhood to now is the continuous shrinking green space.
Right.
I'm from Osun State and a Muslim, and I remember as a child, we always travel for the Salah, for the Eid holidays from Lagos to Osun. And I remember in those days that once you get to Bega in Lagos, all the way till you get to the toll gates are the only physical structures you see. And then after the toll gate, until you get to Saguru Maraji in Ibadan. Right. It's all green, all forest. And I remember my dad used to jokingly say that there are lions, there are elephants in this forest. And then when we get to that area, you get scared because I don't want to see the lions and that. Yeah. But now you can practically drive from Lagos to Ibadan without seeing any green. So that's one very visible difference for me from childhood compared to now is the shrinking green space. Another thing is the changing architecture. Right. Like growing up as a child in Lagos, we have apartments with big windows. Mm-hmm. So there was good ventilation. Even when we always had perpetual unstable power supply, but we could still sleep in our houses. Because we had good ventilations. But if you look at the new houses that are being built, the windows are getting smaller and smaller by the day. So it looks more like optimization of land is at the detriment of ventilation. And then with the climate change and its impacts, one of which is everybody in the last 3 weeks, there are a lot of memes online, twerking to get solar and all sort of challenges because people are experiencing heat wave.
Right.
But it's exacerbated by the architecture because houses are now built to optimize profit and space without consideration for ventilation, which is what we need, free flow of air, so that people can sleep well in their houses. So now our architecture is tending towards more European, where they have smaller windows to conserve heat. We don't need small windows to conserve heat. We need bigger windows to allow airflow.
Right.
So now, from childhood to now, if you see those, unfortunately, most of those old houses in Ikeja, Mushin, Oshodi, they are giving way. Now they are being knocked down for more modern buildings,
tinier,
with very small windows.
Interesting.
So now we are building more houses that needs more energy consumption, because when you when you don't have good ventilation, you need more air conditioners.
Right.
As a child, the whole street, I couldn't remember any house with air conditioner on my street. Because the windows were big enough. Even the big men, the so-called big men, they used fans. But now, even the poorest of the poorest, if you can afford an air conditioner to save your life, you buy one.
You buy.
So those are the urbanization trends that I've noticed from my childhood to the shrinking green space, the changing architecture, and also climate change impacts. Like this year, I was asking a colleague, as the rainy season started, because it looks like it didn't stop. It rained in January in Lagos. It rained in February. March. It rained in March. It's raining now. Are we in the rainy season, or is this what there is always this pre-rainy season rain, and then in the southwest the farmers call it tomosoko. Like it's just forced rain for you to plant, and if you plant, you probably lose your crops. But now also there is changing weather patterns. And then it's not as predictable as it used to be when I was a child. January to November to January was Harmattan. February to April was the peak of the heat on dry season. And then from May to August, there's rain, and then in August there's a break. We call it the August break. And then in September the rain continues till October, and then end of October, early November, the Harmattan season starts. Now the weather pattern is unpredictable. So those are the three major things that I've noticed that have changed with increasing urbanization since I was from my childhood compared to now.
Awesome. In fact, you've opened up the conversation beautifully, and you've given us some pointers. Because that point you raised is very key. Sometimes I'm coming to work and just seeing tiny. I'm like, are we designing prisons now, or what's the idea behind this now? Of course, we'll look to open this more as we progress. So I'd like to come back to you now. So for you, memories, stories. What has it been for you? What strikes your mind?
I was born in Lagos, Surulere precisely. And I've always lived in Surulere except for short interregnum for university and a couple of things. But it's not the Surulere that I grew up in, that I live now.
Right.
So people who probably moved into Surulere from, say, very late 80s, in the 90s, will probably think that Surulere has always been an urban jungle, a concrete jungle. But I remember growing up, there are things we never thought we would buy with money. One of such being snails. So imagine that we had snails in our environment. That tells it what kind of environment will nurture snails. We never thought we would buy things like pawpaw, like coconuts. Nobody will, unless you want to sell at very large scale. But the one that people will eat, who will sell coconuts now? Sugarcane, and so many other things like that. Life was such that there's always an uncompleted building somewhere. On undeveloped land. And in those days when you have undeveloped land, it will be greenery. It will be a safe space for us children. And it will also be a good place for, biodiversity. But that is no more. Everything has been built up and concreted. Of course, it's not like back then we didn't have problem. Why did Alhaji Konde, the governor in the Second Republic, construct the canal across? It's because we were having issues of flooding. But this flooding was because there was no proper drainage system. And Lagos being close to major water bodies, the soil is easily saturated. So if there's no way to, for instance, you have places where water is supposed to gather when there is heavy storm, and such that after the storm it can drain back to the lagoon and all of that. So part of the reason why they had to do the canal to solve that problem. But however, we are back to those days of the kind of rainstorms and flooding, especially flash flooding in Lagos, because we have concreted everywhere. So there's runoff water everywhere from the compounds onto the... Nowadays, the roads are higher than your compound mostly. And everywhere is concrete. So there is always heavy flooding. I mean, we thought we had gotten rid of that for a long time, but it's back with us. Life is not like it used to be, really. You had a lot of trees. You had... there were still animals that we could say that, oh, this is this animal. Not anymore. So life has changed. And it's changing even more. When you talk about having smaller windows, now even if you like have big window, the space between your house and the next is so closed up.
Right.
It's a problem. You go to Lagos Island and people can actually literally shake hands from one window
to
another.
Actually, true.
So even if you have big window, it doesn't make any sense. And it's a problem. I remember visiting a Nigerian in diaspora somewhere in Germany with Dr. Salawu. He works for he worked there, I don't know if he's still with them, for the Bavarian government. And he told me he was living in a village. And I traveled quite for some time to get to where I was living. But when I got there, I had to challenge him that, but you say you are living in a village. Because I couldn't see sign of living, the idea of village in my thinking is that, where life is, the drudgery you're talking about, where life is slow. But actually, in that kind of village, the only thing that really differentiates it from the urban space is that you have less noise, fewer cars, and you have more greenery. But everything that makes life like you're living in the urban space, in the city, is there. And he told me that the reason for that is that if he, as somebody who chose to live in the village, is deprived of any amenity that will make his life easier, as a citizen, you can actually sue the government. Because that means government is trying to force you out of that space. And the city can't contain everybody. So the reverse is the case here. Going to live in the village means you are going to forfeit so many things.
Right. Which
other countries have taken care of? So when you say, for instance, the food that they eat the one we eat in the city comes from the village.
Right.
But the journey it will take from that place, the quality will not remain the same. And then, of course, the peace with which we eat it. Because
another issue.
You want to eat here. If you live in a crowded environment, your neighbors, even if you are not putting on your own, I better pass my neighbor. Your neighbor's exhaust is disturbing. The noise is disturbing. It's not the same peace with which you eat what they eat back then. But the food we eat still comes from there. So we have not been intentional about our urban development because we need the cities. The truth is that the population of the world is growing so fast. The luxury life we used to live, even we in Lagos know that we can't continue this idea of every man with his plot.
Right.
But can we be intentional about how we develop our environment such that we make room for greenery, with the architecture would be less energy intensive, so many things that are needed to be. We are not intentional about it. So this is our reality.
Right.
Some of it we might be able to reverse, but these are reality largely.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. So now moving on, I just want to ask now, because of course, urbanization is supposed to be like a blessing. Roads, skyscrapers, clean water, tarred roads, cars, and everything, supposedly making our life better. So now I want to, is urbanization now in this sense a kind of Trojan horse that is presented to us?
Okay, so it's like you mentioned a case of maybe the German way of life. I lived in Germany before and I lived in a village, so I understand when you mentioned it, I was smiling. Like the concept of urbanization is not supposed to be, oftentimes our urbanization is not planned. Okay? So what happens is what people call new sites. And then people go and build houses, and then the government wakes up one day and notice that this whole place is now fully built up without proper drainage planning, without proper energy planning, and then without proper infrastructure to deal with the population of people living in that area. So what the government does eventually is, in order not to just knock houses down, because we know what happens when they do demolitions. It's always political, even if it shouldn't be, because when people build, they know what they're doing. But at the end of the day, you look at the investment and then you now start finding your way around it. How do we now place canal? How do we now place drainages to ensure that there's no flooding in this area? So I think the first thing we should do, like, there's nothing wrong in urbanization. Like, urbanization it's normal because we all want development. But it's the way we go about our urbanization. You've probably heard of the Abuja master plan. It's possible there is a Lagos master plan. But who enforces that development is in line with master plans? Because the essence of master plan is to ensure sustainable development and ensure that infrastructure, population, and everything, like, you can't put a population of more than 1,000 people and there are no schools, there are no health centers, right? Because there should be access to health, good health care and all that. But when we don't follow master plan, where nobody enforces proper development, then we have what we have, which is chaotic urbanization. That's what we have. It's chaotic. Everybody does what they like. You will be surprised at the number of sand filling of water bodies going on around the Lekki axis, where we used to have rivers. Keep in mind that rivers are natural drainage systems. They are natural drainage system where you don't need concrete gutter canals if we build properly around this natural drainage system. So people, somebody has money, if sand fills a whole river and builds an estate and then calls it Riverview Estate after blocking the river. Okay? And then I was talking to a developer. They said, why are you sand? He said, no, it's not sand filling. I said, so what? He said, it's land reclamation. Wow. So we look for words to justify our destruction of the environment, the natural environment. So when you do natural reclamation, what are you doing? You're changing the course of the water body. So what do we have? Urbanization is not really supposed to be a curse. Is the way we go about our urbanization that makes it a curse in the long run. Because for those, I was opportune to be in a space with the late Professor Mabogunje of blessed memory, and he was talking about how between the Berger Bridge and what we now know as Opik Estate was a buffer in the original master plan for Lagos and Ogun. It's supposed to be a buffer. But where you have guided and deliberate urbanization that looks at available natural capital, available natural infrastructure, and then we build around the infrastructure. An example is the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, our headquarters here. If you look at our building, because we are in a wetland, we have elevated foundation that allows the flow of water during the rainy season to flow naturally under the building. And then, so we are not disrupting the ecosystem, but we are still living. We have a building inside the wetland, but necessarily we didn't destroy the wetland to build the building. So you look at it like it could be the templates that could have been adopted the whole of Lekki in building, where we still live in Lekki, and then we leave and allow the water to flow, just like you have in cities like Venice, Dresden in Europe,
right,
where people, their houses are just on what they call canals, which are the natural waterways. But here we just do things. We, on a plot of land, we clear everything. Even one single tree, you don't even leave to provide a shade. Imagine if you have one huge mango tree in this heat period.
Right.
Easily, it cools down the temperature of that environment by providing shade when other people are sweating it out.
Right.
But then what do? We knock down all the trees, we sand fill all the waterways, we do everything as if we just don't want to see the natural environment around us.
Right.
So it could be a blessing, it could be a curse. So it's a function of how do you go about the urbanization? Is it properly planned?
Right.
Urbanization, where you take into consideration sustainable development. You're looking at the natural environment. How do we conserve the green spaces? How do we maximize the wetlands and all this? But when we do it, the way we do it now is haphazard urbanization, and that is why we have issues that we have now, where you have like 70% of Lagos heading the same way every morning, and then
it's a serious issue.
Going back the same way. At the end of the day. So the workforce, where is the workforce? Lagos mainland. Where are most of the offices, the industries on the island? So everybody leaves their home, choke, transportation, traffic, all heading the same way in the morning, and then all heading the same way in the evening. So what is wrong? Like using that model where every Arigbabu has his own industries, has his own companies, the banks, MTN, and people around Arigbabu, they work in Arigbabu. And then people in Oshodi walk around Ikeja environs. Why should we all be heading? And then you see, you think that we enjoy some benefits during public holidays where the traffic is less. But then you look at it, people want to take their family out for entertainment. Where are all the entertainment? They're on the island. So even when the island is supposed to rest, when there is public holiday, Christmas, Easter, everybody heads because this is the entertainment headquarters. So it's all a function of poor planning and poor urbanization development that we've done so far.
Okay, I think I love your point about how urbanization is not a curse. It's is either two ways. Is either a curse or is a blessing. And it depends on how we're able to plan, properly. That's when we will be able to know whether it's a curse to us or it's a blessing. So, but I want to take us, bring us back a bit. Are there any, ways, in subtle ways that, the city life is affecting us that people can't necessarily link to urbanization?
Definitely. If you look at the expected the life expectancy,
yes,
it's not holistic. It varies between the urban and the rural area. So you'd oftentimes, depending also, because there are also other factors, like in the rural area, access to health could also be what impacts life expectancy. But where all those things are present, it's normal that the person with access to fresh air, with more healthy food, not mass-produced, chemical-intensive agricultural products, has better chance of living. And then also the Mr. Sulaimon Arigbabu mentioned the chokes, like the way we are building houses in the city that prevents that cross ventilation and proper ventilation of houses. So naturally, people in urban areas are suffering more If you don't have access to 24 hours power supply and air conditioner, you would suffer from the heat. And when there is excessive heat, you can't sleep well. Your sleep is disrupted.
Exactly.
So it impacts, it adds a lot of another level of stress to whatever you're going to naturally, albeit through transportation, traffic, and the cost of living is also one that we're all dealing with. And then you add lack of sleep to it, and then it impacts productivity. Because when it's cumulative, you can't sleep well for 1 week. Your head will not
be fine.
You can't be as productive as someone that sleeps well at night. So it has a lot of impact. And then the air we breathe in. Now there is increase in incidence of cancer, all sort of cancer. When for those of us that are not Gen Z, growing up, we never heard of cancer. Like it was something like in science fiction. But now everybody knows one or two people that are either dealing with cancer or that have passed away from cancer. So it impacts the health. Pollution. You stay in traffic 3 hours. Even if you have air conditioning, you still smell the exhaust from inside the car. It comes in through the vents. So the quality of life is basically what is impacted. It looks like we've sacrificed quality of living for urbanization the way we are. So basically that's for me something that it's concerning, that the quality of life and living has reduced compared to what it used to be.
Awesome. Thank you. When you mentioned that traffic example, it's something that I'm sure that almost thousands of people can really relate to it. There's one trending story one time online that was going very well. I think a lady stays in Ikorodu.
Yeah.
She now recorded herself coming to work. I think somewhere
every morning.
From 5, 4 or something, has to wake up. So you're almost spending 4 or 5 productive hours, because if the average person is usually more productive in the mornings, but you have spent almost 4 of those productive hours in traffic
on the road.
Then in the evening again, you have to go home. You spend another 3. So it's just a weird, crazy. So I'd like to ask you now, seeing how we talk about it, she also raised the issue of cancer. So on our health, there are issues mentally, physically, all way around. But there's an interesting point she brought up that I would like us to speak from there. She talked about this sun feeling thing. That is another dramatic part. So are there issues like, because I was also going to add sometimes this what's this called? Is it draining on this part where you also see people, if they are not sun feeling some parts of the water, they are taking out dredging, they're taking out sand from other parts. So these issues, what are there adverse effects at some point?
Thank you. Lagos is peculiar for some of these things we are experiencing. So we know of the Eco Atlantic City, and Eco Atlantic City is meant to be a solution to a problem that we've known for a long time, which is the Bar Beach, the ocean inundating the Bar Beach. It's supposed to be a brick and mortar solution that's supposed to take care of. But the reality is that could it be responsible for the further down the coast problem we are seeing in places like Okunwafa and the rest of it? Because you have either to embrace a brick and mortar solution, right, or to allow nature to do its natural eco services. For instance, we used to have solutions. If you still go to Badagry, most of the places are the coastlines are littered with coconut trees. There is a reason why nature designs what kind of flora will be in certain places, what kind of fauna will be there. But unfortunately, we are reversing a lot of that. Folake was talking about buffer zone. There are 2 buffer zones in Lagos that I'd like to call our attention to.
Okay.
So, somewhere from Ogun State, heading through Okpebi, Allen, busting out at the new flyover that has just been constructed at Maryland. Now, that place is to be a buffer zone for a green belt.
Right.
The design is that such a place, not only will it preserve some flora and fauna like we are talking about, many a times you see people come out with, they have caught some big alligator and some kind of different animals that should have been allowed to rest. But because we have choked them, they are forced to come on the street and people kill them. Now, the idea is that when you have heavy storm, such places will conserve, because that place leads onto the lagoon through Ogudu.
Oh.
So it's supposed to contain the water till the storm is over, and then the water can retreat to the lagoon. If you look at that place, starting from somewhere after Alausa and the rest of it, no, not Alausa, it doesn't pass through Alausa actually, but it's on that axis. It crosses Obafemi Owolo way down to the back of Okpebi to come and bust out. It's all choked. You either have mechanic workshops that have filled up most of the place, but in the past, when it used to be private development, we were able to shout and say, hey, but now is official development. Aside from that flyover that we are seeing, that place is being turned from a buffer, a reserve, to something like just a small drainage for water. You know, if you look at Festac, when Festac was developed, the space between Festac and the express road that was developed by, I think, General Gawan, they left a green space so that the animals there, some of the plants that used to be there, will be conserved in that area. You can't drive through. If you drive through there, where it's not built up, where we have not built shops and what have you, you find people collecting waste, doing bola, waste sorting, and all of that.
Yes.
Or you find plank market and what have you. We have invaded all of these places. At a time, Lagos State, when they realized that, I think that was during Dr. Minsbani, they came up with the Lagos Parks and Garden Law. And part of that law says that, okay, you don't remove trees. Matter of fact, they invested in some John Deere trucks that if you want to remove a tree, then you apply to government, and government can actually excavate that tree from that place and go and plant elsewhere.
Right.
They say that if you want to develop a plot, you must mandatorily leave 30% of that plot as a green space. None of those laws are respected, because even government itself is the number one violator. And then part of the challenge is that you have this dichotomy between Federal Housing Authority and Lagos State. So the problem, the headache in Festac today was largely caused by that contention. People will go to FHA to go and get approval for places that by design were meant to be green spaces within development. So now the problem of government is, how do you have the Festac extension? They have so built it up that there is no breathing space, and now they are suffering. And when we suffer, we then go back to the same government and say, come and solve this problem. Well, government that initially was not responsible and on its duty to prevent certain things. Like Folake said, you see new development, it's just a monile that sold land. No recourse to, this is supposed to be the kind of building you have here. This is Lagos. Is one of the places on earth with the most violated wetlands. See, I am not against some form of urban spreading to wetlands, but it has to be with respect to the original landlords of that space.
Right.
With respect to the essence of that place for nature.
Right.
So these places, you have a lot of spawning of various aquatic animals. You have water retention in case of heavy storm and all of that. So it means that if we are going to build there, like she make example of this place, even you go to Makoko and the rest of it, these people built on stilts. And that's how we do it, meaning that the traditional us had more respect for nature. And learned to live with it and by it. Then the new dominion spirit we have is to come and dominate nature. And that's why we are having this problem. We don't respect what natural eco services that place that environment is providing for us. We just change
the whole system.
Change the system, and then we then come to complain. You see people living along Isheri and all, every year they have problems.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they are where they are not supposed to be. They are on the bank of rivers. And we all knew these things, but because we're careless about development, if you are going to develop certain areas, it can't just be people, individuals going to buy land and doing stuff.
Right.
It has to be that some investors guided by government who will look at a particular environment and say, okay, this is how nature has designed this place. How do we build around it? So there's this community, Ebute Afuye in Ekpe, where they are mostly fish farmers and fish sellers. And there's this concept of cage culture where you nurture fishes in their natural environment, just using cage too. And actually the World Bank gave a lot of grants through Lagos State, called it Bells project. And they supported farmers to, construct their, it's also in Badagry and some other places. But why this is peculiar is that where their cages are located and where people have actually invested millions and they were just weeks away from harvest, there is also a sand dredging company just a couple of meters down the shore. And one day the sand dredging activity overwhelmed the fish and their fishes died in their thousands.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now Lagos State said, we are not the ones who licensed the sand dredger. Is NIWA, the Nigerian Inland Waterways Authority. When we approached Lagos State to address the matter, the reality is that at the state level, at the community level, the Obas, traditional rulers from that axis, actually came to where government was mediating in support of the sand dredgers, not in support of their community people. Who, I can tell you, this problem happened over 2 years now. There's not been any compensation to do. That's one thing dredging can do. You see all the crises along Oworo. You see all the land reclamation. Not only is government doing what's so-called reclamation, they're also giving license to people. There are many communities. If you are driving along some parts of Ikoro, you see some houses on top of what you would think is a hill, and at the back, the sand has been, that one is not dredging. The
erosion.
Like some sort of landslide.
No, it's not. It's because you see trucks, you see excavators under them. Where they think is a low place, and there are some other communities are on top of that place. Wow. So you are looking at some of these communities that if there is heavy rain someday, you might see major houses coming down. It is true that we are going to need sand for development, but it's also true that it can be done in a controlled and sustainable way. But here, you have people, they pay so much or they use whatever influence it is to get license to dredge. So many communities where dredging is going on, nobody is monitoring, and it's the community people that are suffering. It's the environment that is suffering.
It's really been an insightful conversation so far, honestly. And if we spend a lot of time here, we're still not going to exhaust everything that our guests have to say. But before we move on, you're still tuning to the Naija Eco Vibes Podcast, where we are sustaining nature one vibe at a time. And you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Naija Eco Vibes Podcast. You can also watch our podcast on YouTube at NCF Nigeria. And you can also find us by listening to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts at Naija Eco Vibes Podcast. So let's get back to the conversation. We've said a lot of things, the problem urbanization is causing us, how it's affecting biodiversity, how it's affecting humans. We've mentioned so many things that urbanization is neither a curse nor a blessing. It depends on how we plan it. So what can we do? What solution can we prefer to, the government, individuals on the road, we ourselves, and so that we both nature and us will thrive at the same time? So what can we do, Ma?
So basically, it's called what the simple principle of life, which is live and let live. In your aspiration to develop, don't deprive other species and other people from benefiting from the same environment you're benefiting from. So, which leads us to the global term for live and let live, which is sustainable development. Development that takes care of our needs now and also takes care of the need of unborn generation. That's basically what we need. Sustainable development. I gave an example of we need to change our architecture to be a more environment friendly. And then we need to enforce existing law. If there is a law that says when you develop a plot, leave 30% as green space. Don't make it shop. Don't make it garage. Let it green space. It could be lawn. It could be flowers. It could be trees. But reserve some green space. And what that does is to purify imagine if you have 100 houses on the street, 30% of each of those plots, you have green spaces. Imagine the clean air in that space because of the greenery. So let's adhere to and enforce existing law. And then we also need a lot of awareness creation, because I think the most destructive animal is human. And because we feel we are the only one entitled to this planet Earth. So we destroy everything just for our own living. We need a lot of awareness creation so that people will know that they can still enjoy what they want to enjoy without necessarily destroying the whole ecosystem and biodiversity around that place. I cited examples of Venice, of Dresden, where people live on waterways without sand filling or doing land reclamation. So, law enforcing existing laws. We need new policies for emerging problems that we have. And we can't depend on 1980, 1990 laws in 2026 because the problems are different. So we need new laws also to ensure that whatever urbanization and development we're doing is properly guided by law, and there is consequence for not following the law. Because oftentimes it's not like there are no laws, but because people usually are not held accountable for their actions, it becomes free for all. Because where there is no enforcement, everybody does whatever they like. So I think these are the basic things, and then we need to also do self-reflection as human beings. How can I make my environment better?
Right.
And it's in taking personal responsibility that when I have money and then I buy my own plot of land in Lekki, I would do it in a more responsible way without doing it the way other people are doing, because I'm conscious of the impact of my action on the environment and the whole ecosystem at large. So it's personal responsibility. The government should do their own enforcement, and then we should just adhere to existing development and urban. Every state has a urban a ministry for urban planning. So what is the work of the urban planning? They should do their job.
$1 million question.
That's amazing.
Fantastic. Thank you, Masa. Let's also have your directions.
Yes, so I also agree that we must be a nation of consequences. I've advocated in some fora that it doesn't matter how long people have retired, even when people die after working for government, we should still call them out if they enabled the law to be broken. All the places that have become nuisance to the environment, whether it's blocking of drainage, whether it's building on drainage, whether it's building along shorelines that shouldn't have been developed, or where land use has changed without proper planning and permission, some people actually gave the approvals. So it is not only because when government eventually wake up to the responsibility, they will go and demolish. So the person who went to procure a wrong approval has suffered. How about the person who benefited from, providing that approval? So people, it doesn't matter, even if you have retired 20 years, we should call you out. People should go to jail after 20 years of leaving public service for having approved the wrong. If we have such, we won't have the madness we're having all over Lagos, where people will procure also. And even if your crime is negligence,
right,
you refuse to stop things when they should have, for whatever reasons it is, then government also and its personnel should actually bear some of the consequences. The solution is possible. Technology will help. Some times ago, Lagos State government rightfully was talking about e-governance, meaning that you can access government services if you live in Badagry without coming to Alausa. If you live in Ekpe, it's just a matter of having an e-government center where all the necessary agencies are there in one spot, and you can transact your things digitally. Right. So that everybody don't have to come to Alausa to make things happen. Alhaji Jakonde saw that vision when he came to power in 1979. Schools were not everywhere, and he thought he wants school to be close, to every Lagos child. And he made it happen within. They said, he's building poultry, but those poultries have produced some of the best brains in the world today. So if government is ready, and we as a people, we are ready. Right. I think we have not suffered enough. In Bile, we never suffer. It's unfortunate. Right. Because even when you try to do citizen to citizen, appeal or, correction, that nobody shouldn't be doing this. You are going to, the fight back will be terrible. If you are not standing well, they will push you down. So if we are ready, we need to have this serious public conversation that government should take lead. What kind of environment do we want? What we are doing now is not sustainable. Omonile just sell land. Anybody build what they want to do. Government will approve reclamation and all sorts of shenanigans. And then you have a crazy environment. We need to have this public conversation where we all agree that, this is the kind of environment we should have. This is how bad things have gone. This is the little we can correct of what has gone bad. But what is left, this is how we should manage it. These are the things that should be approved. So that we all take responsibility for making sure that we keep by those terms, that we all commonly agree to. It's not just government alone. Yeah. It's not government alone that should decide. And it's not government alone that should enforce. It must be a whole of society approach.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sir. Fantastic take. And of course, the real question, of course, is not whether we would have development. The real question is whether we're developing ourselves or having urbanization in tandem with nature, not forgetting one or abandoning the other. It's been a fantastic conversation today. Thank you so much, ma, for your time. Thank you, sir, for your time. And of course, before we call it a wrap, in our proper tradition, and like we like to do, you have a little something that I would like to give our guests to say you are here. Like I like to always reference. When I was in secondary school, did I write? I was a good boy. So I didn't write on the on the hostel wall.
Somebody was here.
Who was here? So we'll have a little guest signing board I would like to give here, Mama. Let's have you, so people can know that
we're here.
You enter the bush.
I hope the date is correct.
Today is 8.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes. Yes.
Are you sure National Assembly has not changed it? Maybe it's because we are in the jungle. Maybe the date has shifted in the
time zone.
Abi.
Yes, one final last song. Yes, we also have a special gift box. That we also
the
like
vibes box.
Yes. Oh, perfect. Sir. The vibes box. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agama vibes.
Yes, and on that note, we'd like to also say, of course, you can also get your branded merchandise from us at Naija Eco Vibes branded, customized items. You have to reach out to us via social media, right? That's the best platform. Yes. At NCF Nigeria, anywhere you are, you can reach us. Let us know. We will ship our items specially to your doorstep, wherever you are. across the globe, Abby.
Yeah, exactly.
All right now. Also, on that note, I like to say at this point T, junction J, location O, it's a wrap on the Naija Eco Vibes podcast. So wherever you are, please keep in mind that all starts with you as an individual. Play your part to ensure that we have a very beautiful urban city. And on that note, we are sorting nature
one vibe at a time.
Peace.